few days ago, President Vladimir Putin ordered his armed forces to cleanse Russia of every single invading soldier, no later than the end of September. But that didn't happen, and by some measures, the situation in Russia's Kursk region is getting worse. Multiple Ukrainian combat brigades were on Tuesday, as the timeline for that presidential decree ran out, still deployed in force in Russia, 45 days into Kyiv's incursion into Russian territory, in two small enclaves in a single Luxembourg-sized salient. Russian troops to the west of the Ukrainian incursion were, on Tuesday, still partially isolated by the Ukraine-Russia border and an unfordable river called the Seam, and able to receive only limited supply under fire by Ukrainian artillery and kamikaze drones. The deteriorating Russian situation was first reported by media, among other Ukrainian media, in early September. As October begins, back-and-forth battles are still taking place at flashpoints along a roughly 115 to 125 kilometer, 71 to 77 mile perimeter, held by Ukraine inside Russia, with neither side holding a clear upper hand, and both sides attempting to gain ground. While the firefights and artillery exchanges have pitted elements of Russian paratroopers and naval infantry marine formations, backed by Russia's powerful air force, against the largest-scale Ukrainian offensive force assembled since June 2023. Russia reportedly has deployed up to 40,000 troops to the Kursk sector to stamp out the Ukrainian incursion. Per Kremlin statements, and according to Ukraine-based open-source researchers, Kyiv has deployed elements of some 30 combat brigades on paper, at least a quarter of the entire Ukrainian army, for Ukraine's invasion of Russia. Per reports from units involved in the fighting, the latest round of Ukrainian Kursk sector attacks kicked off on September 25 to 26 and were aimed at the town of Glushkovo. Ukrainian capture of the town would split the isolated sector roughly in half. Kremlin information platforms reported those attacks were repelled with losses. Some Ukrainian social media on Tuesday said Kyiv's forces had fought their way into Glushkovo's southern suburbs and published video of Russian air and artillery strikes geolocated to that area, usually a reliable indicator of Ukrainian troops in the vicinity. Media review of Tuesday images collected by the NASA satellite network NISI showed fires burning to the north of Glushkovo in the vicinity of one of the Seam River crossing sites. Very substantial fires were visible further upstream, deeper into Russia-controlled territory, near the riverside villages of Iznoskovo, Imeni Kubisheva, and Semenovo. Russian sources, including the Ministry of Defense, on Tuesday claimed Kremlin forces made assaults into Ukraine-controlled territory southeast of the town of Koronevo and south of the town Sudzha. While in the vicinity of a village called Plachova, at the southeastern base of the Ukrainian salient, and scored alleged substantial ground gains on Sunday and Monday. A Ukrainian unit geolocated to that sector, the 129th Territorial Defense on Sunday, published a video contradicting that Kremlin narrative, showing images of Russian armored assault of at least 5 tanks and armored personnel carriers driving across open fields near Plachova and being stopped and burned by accurate Ukrainian artillery and drone swarm strikes. The official Telegram channel of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, or AFU, mentions Russian losses geographically located in the vicinity of Plachova. Powerful images of Russians in the Kursk region being badly beaten by pilots of the 129th Territorial Defense Brigade. Putin, in response to initial Ukrainian incursions in mid-August, named his alma mater, Russia's national spy agency, the Federal Security Service, FSB, the lead for containing and repelling Ukraine's invasion. National-level special operations units not often spotted in action in Ukraine, deployed to the Kursk region to beef up defenses. The famous FSB Spetsnaz commandos and the Alpha and Vemel anti-terrorist strike groups, the Institute for the Study of War, ISAW, reported in a September 26 situation update. Those elite units, those skilled in infantry tactics, went into combat again with little experience coordinating with other state agencies like the Army, Air Force, and National Police, and sometimes found themselves at a disadvantage fighting against heavily armed Ukrainian combat brigades, fielding tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, artillery, and dedicated drone units. Friction between the FSB and other agencies tasked to expel Ukraine's military from the Kursk region is likely to continue, the ISW report said. Alexei Dyumin, a top-level Putin advisor, on September 27, insisted the Russian counteroffensive would deliver results, telling state-controlled media, "Soon all that territory in Kursk region will be completely liberated. The General Staff has a plan for that." According to Ukrainian sources, Russian generals, despite such promises, were not only far from ejecting the Ukrainian incursion, but struggling to keep 2,000 to 3,000 troops partially isolated by the advance of Kyiv forces supplied. As of September 29th, a single pontoon bridge across the Seam River was still intact and in use by Kremlin troops for continued delivery of food and ammunition to Russian forces in a 900 square kilometer, 348 square mile swath of territory west of the Ukrainian incursion, but reachable for Russian forces only via routes crossing the river, the Ukrainian open-source data tracker Kyiv reported. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones reportedly are in near-continuous orbit above the now vital span, some 3 kilometers, 1.9 miles, north of village of Glushkovo, and traffic using the bridge at times must run a gauntlet of long-range Ukrainian artillery shell strikes, or FPV drones. Since Ukraine invaded the Kursk region, Kyiv's forces destroyed 3 road bridges and 3 pontoon bridges along the Seam, the report said. War researchers confirmed the Ukrainian Air Force used Western Ally-delivered guided bombs to take down at least 2 of the road bridges. Both sides over the weekend reported continued intense Russian artillery and air bombardment of suspected Ukrainian positions inside Russia.